Welcome to the Kapital News. I am your host, Alex Karitis. Today is Friday, January 15th, 2021. Thank you so much for joining me. We're just going to do a weekly wrap-up today. There wasn't that much news that took place this week, right? I don't know. The fallout from the U.S. Capitol riots and protests from last week. Obviously, last Friday being the first Friday of the month, we got the jobs report, a loss of 140,000 jobs. Of course, yesterday was Thursday, so we got the initial jobless claims figure coming in at a staggering and heartbreaking 965,000. We were told these numbers were supposed to be getting better. They're getting worse. We have been told that we are in the midst of a miraculous V-shaped recovery. Well, it seems to be leaving the people behind. And now, of course, unemployment is a lagging factor. It's a lagging variable. But these numbers are getting worse. They're not getting better. And we don't know what's going to happen with these vaccines. They were rushed through a process, through an operation warp speed. So we don't know if they're actually going to work. We don't know if they're going to run into a wall, maybe a brick wall. I mean, I saw a headline on Zero Hedge stating that some patients, that older patients that received the vaccine, the Pfizer vaccine over in Norway, have died. And now Norway is looking into it. Maybe they're going to halt the rollout of the Pfizer vaccine. Well, what's that going to do to the economy? What's that going to do to markets? Is that going to cause further restrictions and lockdowns? And that's just one of them. They've all been rushed through. This is what happens. There are still a ton of unknowns remaining with respect just to the vaccines. And then they're trying to scare us again. And of course, it may very well be true, and I'm sure it is to some extent, that there is another strain of COVID-19 out there that's more violent. It's more contagious. I mean, that's what viruses do. They mutate, so I wouldn't doubt that. But the timing of it is, of course, highly suspect, because as soon as we start to have vaccines coming online, you have the new strain or strains of COVID-19. And if the vaccines do not protect people from this new strain, well, then are we going to go through this whole entire process again? And what is that going to mean? Now, for the real economy, it's completely devastating and destructive. What that means for the crackheads on Wall Street might be great news. Because now it's just a printing press is turned on 24/7 nonstop. How much you need? They'll give it to you. Unlimited crack coming through the pipes, if that happened. Ton of unknowns still going on there. And then, of course, because the data that came out yesterday was horrendous, we actually got that statement from the Secretary of Labor saying, well, this is just due to the restrictions and the lockdowns. But also, he put in his note, he also stated that the uptick in initial claims is in part due to the extension of unemployment benefits. Well, we're likely going to get an extension of the extension. Now, the first extension takes us through March. Now, if the Biden bill, his $2 trillion monstrosity piece of junk, gets passed, even some of it, well, we're going to have an extension on the extension. So instead of it being through March, it's going to be through September. So by the Secretary of Labor's own logic, that's going to continue to contribute to an increase in initial jobless claims, which it will, because that's where the incentive is for a lot of people, because they very well may be making more money not working. And of course, also some of these programs allow people who typically do not qualify for state unemployment benefits to receive something. So if they were able to dodge being laid off, losing their job, what have you, through last year, maybe it comes through again, it comes around this time for them, they can still file and receive a benefit. But there is no end in sight to all of this, and you cannot flip a switch and just expect to be back to any semblance of normal. And remember, normal was not normal. Living well beyond our means, the economic data across the spectrum was rolling over throughout 2019. Go back and check our podcast throughout the entire year, saying, this is peaking, this is about to roll over, this is peaking, this is about to roll over, across the board, variable after variable after variable. And a lot of people didn't even realize that because they were being told, it was being trumpeted every single day that this was the greatest economy ever in the history of the country. Simply not true, not even close. But I guess if you continue to repeat something over and over and over again, people, I guess they assume that it is the truth. Why would somebody lie to me like that? Well, we have liars like that in this country. It doesn't stop them. That's why you have to look under the hood. That's why you have to look at the data. I'm not a pessimist. I was just giving you the facts straight. That's it. There are business cycles. There are booms. There are busts. All parties come to an end. And that's what was happening. And of course, it was very convenient for the powers that be that there was a global pandemic, because they get to blame any type of economic weakness on the pandemic, not on the fact that the business cycle was rolling over, heading into a recession. No, that wasn't happening. It was boomtown. No problem. But we got a problem now with COVID-19. Got to shut down, got to lock down, got to do all this stuff. And now we are dealing with the fallout, which we're going to be dealing with for years. I mean, years. The fallout from all of these asinine policies, one after the next. The Nobody Cares Act. Nobody Cares Act 2.0, 3.0 is coming down the pike, 4.0, maybe 5.0 by the time it's all said and done. Maybe some type of infrastructure bill, some type of environmental bill, some type of health care bill. Your guess is as good as mine, but they're coming. This is just getting started. You cannot throw trillions of dollars into the system out of nowhere from unproductive means, meaning borrowed money, meaning printed money. You cannot do this and sustain a healthy and vibrant economy, or build a vibrant and sustainable economy off of that foundation, because it's a foundation built upon sand. It should be very easy to understand. But as soon as the politics comes into it, as soon as the argument comes into it from somebody that has an R after their name or a D after their name, well, all bets are off. We can have this conversation that we're having right now, and it all makes perfect sense. But as soon as you get the politics into it, and one of these idiots from either side starts speaking something else, well, they got to jump on that bandwagon and go there. And then they wonder why nothing gets solved. Because you make it more about the party and more about winning than doing what's right, doing what makes sense, doing what is in keeping with the principles of this country. With the principles of free market capitalism. It's not difficult stuff. Maybe that's the problem. It's too easy, and people just want to overcomplicate everything. But here we have U.S. retail sales. This isn't my words. These are the headlines. U.S. retail sales unexpectedly drop in December. It doesn't matter what site you're on. These headline writers must get paid based off of how many times they use the word unexpectedly. I don't know who this is unexpected of, but apparently it is. So U.S. retail trade fell 0.7% from a month earlier in December, following a revised 1.4% decline in November, and compared with market expectations of a flat reading. That was also the third consecutive month of declines in consumption amid record COVID-19 infections, high unemployment levels, and lack of government support. So how can these people write the same thing? Amid record COVID-19 infections, high unemployment levels, and lack of government support. I don't know where the lack of government support comes from. I mean, they threw trillions of dollars into this. Oh, that's right. It didn't go to the people. It didn't go to the people. It was corporate welfare. Went to the banks, went to the largest corporations in the world. That's where it went. Ah, yeah, silly me, of course. You're going to get a $600 check. For $1.64 a day, you too can sponsor your own American citizen. That's where we are. Yet somehow they still throw the word unexpectedly into the headline. I can guarantee you they're not writing for the Capital News, not me. That's not happening. And this is the holiday shopping season. And consumption continues to decline. This is the real economy, ladies and gentlemen. The United States economy by GDP 60 to 70%, sometimes even more than that, sometimes 75% of the economy is in consumption. So that's not good. U.S. consumer morale deteriorates in January. The University of Michigan's consumer sentiment for the United States fell to a reading of 79.2 in January from the previous month's 80.7, and below market expectations for a reading of 80 even. So again, in the wrong direction. Let's hope this turns around, but there is nothing in sight that gives me a lot of optimism that that's going to be the case, especially with the $15 minimum wage coming, with more checks just being thrown into the system, with more funny money being circulated throughout the economy. These are the death nails. This isn't the medicine. This is not the cure. This is more poison. This is the real virus. We have the dollar index trading at 90.79, so a gain of about 0.6% on the dollar index. That is a big move, and dollar strength across the board. The euro gave back 0.6%. The British pound gave back 0.8%. The Aussie gave back 0.9, and the New Zealand dollar gave back 1.25%, all against the U.S. dollar. So we'll continue to monitor this, see if this is the beginning of an upward trend, or if this was just a little bit of a relief rally, as the dollar has been showing some weakness over the past several weeks. A down day on Wall Street as well, and across the pond in Europe, anywhere from a loss of 1 to 1.5% across the major averages. And on the commodity front, some weakness there too, probably on the back of a strengthening dollar. WTI is now trading at $52.04 a barrel, Brent at $54.81, natural gas $2.75. Gold and silver got whacked today. Gold dropped 1%, $1,827 an ounce. Silver is now again trading with a 24 handle, giving back 3%, $24.73 an ounce. Buying opportunities as far as I'm concerned, especially if you're somebody who pays attention to the mining stocks. They took a licking today. If you are in agreement with me that these are the first innings of a long-term bull market, you got to look at these pullbacks as a gift that the market gives us from time to time, and you just have to be able to weather the volatility. If you can do so, I think you're going to be rewarded, in a not too distant future, but especially as we make our way through the remainder of this decade. And to round it out, Uncle Sam's 10-year junk note is yielding 1.09%. So that's some of the economics through this week. Of course, some of the political noise of the week was President Trump being impeached for the second time during his first term. And depending on how that goes and what Congress does, it may very well be his only term. Of course, he flirts with running again. But Congress can vote to prevent him from holding federal office again if they so choose so. Of course, with the president being impeached for a second time, this makes him the first and only president for this to ever be the case. So it's another sad day in this country. Whatever you think about Donald Trump, love him, hate him, despise him, support him, it doesn't matter. It's a sad day for the country. It was a sad time when he was impeached the first time. And again, it doesn't matter if you were in agreement with it or not. Anytime the country has to go through something like this, it's a sad time in our history. Republican, Democrat doesn't matter. Trump, Clinton, does not matter. And another sad sight, of course, is the fact that we are operating as a banana republic. We can't run and manage our elections. People don't believe in them. And a lot of that comes from the president himself, which is extremely problematic. If he wins, it's A-okay. That's what was supposed to happen. If I lose, it was rigged, and we got to take our country back. Extremely, extremely dangerous rhetoric. This is not Alex Karitas saying this. This is history saying this, because Donald Trump is not the first person to ever walk this earth who has used such language. Okay? It usually doesn't end well. And now we have gates and fences and barbed wires and more troops in Washington, D.C. to protect the inauguration ceremony next Wednesday. We have more troops there than we have basically in the Middle East. So this is just a tragedy. It's a shame. When's it going to stop? When's it going to get better? I mean, the only, I guess, somewhat good image of this is, my take on all of these politicians. Right, left, Republican, Democrat, conservative, liberal, progressive, socialist, doesn't matter. I mean, fire them. So, here at least there's going to be somewhat of the image of they're somewhat behind bars. This is going to be sort of the first image. They're behind bars because they're all behind these fences. They're behind barbed wire. And you have troops guarding them. What a sad sight. What a sad state of affairs. And Joe Biden isn't doing himself any favors when he comes out and calls a lot of the people who were protesting peacefully last week at the Capitol domestic terrorists, when he basically just blankets them all with that title, which is being thrown around way too loosely, in my opinion. So how are you going to unite the country when you're calling a significant amount of people, not just the people that were there, but the people that supported the peaceful protests that were taking place that day? Not the rioters, not the people that breached the Capitol and did harm to people. And again, people got killed. All right, that was a sad day in this country's history also. But Joe Biden's not doing himself nor the country any favors by just calling people domestic terrorists. He doesn't realize that because he's an idiot. He's been proven an idiot for the past 47 years that he's been in office. This is no surprise. This is the best we could do. Two demented jokers. That's exactly what we're going to have to deal with. And again, people are going to scratch their heads. Why isn't anything solved? Why are these the same problems? Can't figure it out. It's just beyond them. The comprehension. Can't figure it out. I don't know why we have $27 trillion in debt. I don't know why we're going to have $49 trillion in debt in the next 4 years. I don't know why savings per family is at $28,500 today, but in 4 years from today, January 15th, 2025, $1,500 a family. I can't figure it out. What's going on here? Just wait for the inflation to really pick up. Wait till we're in an environment of stagflation, a stagnant economy with inflation, when you're not going to have any type of wage growth. And that's because you have a glut of labor supply. You have tens of millions of Americans who are unemployed. They are not in much of a position to negotiate their wages. Econ 101. Econ 101. And the incentive structure that is being put in place by the government in front of us, it's criminal. This is like Pavlov's dogs. You ring the bell before you feed them, the dogs start to salivate. Economy gets worse. Hey, we need some more money. Send me another check for $600. Send me a check for $2,000. Just give me. Problem is, we don't have. So people are getting conditioned to accept a universal basic income. A lot of people will be making more with this funny money than if they were working. This is going to do years' worth of destruction if they continue with these policies and get people conditioned to just accept it and to take it. It's, again, as I've stated almost a year ago when they passed the Nobody Cares Act, this is sit down and shut up money. And it is also simply a pass-through bailout. Great financial crisis, it was directly to the banks. We have to save the banks because if the banks go, everything else goes, which was a bunch of baloney. That's what needed to happen. That was the cleansing of the system. That was the correction. We're still paying for that. Don't ever forget that either. All right? So people getting conditioned. You're now the conduit. You are the middleman for the bailouts. Because I guess the government thought, well, it's barely been a decade since the last F-up. We can't just give all of the money to the banks again. We're going to have to give it to the people. And then, we got them fooled. We'll give them the cash. They'll think they're getting something. And then they'll just pay their bills with it. And then that'll be the pass-through bailout to the banks, the credit card companies, and all that stuff. That's all it was. That's all it's continuing to be. That's why we continue to see retail sales declining over the past 3 months. Holiday shopping season, anybody? Doesn't matter. They still have rent payments to make. They still have mortgage payments to make. This stuff isn't just going to all be forgiven. And if it is, you're going to have another cluster on your hands because what about all of the people who have been paying rent and have been paying their mortgages? Are their payments or their debt, is that all going to be forgiven too? Are they the suckers for doing the right thing? It's going to get very, very heated. Same thing with the student loans. Are they going to pass something? It doesn't appear to be in this bill right now that they're proposing, but that doesn't mean down the line they're not going to do something with respect to student loans. Same thing, same concept. Are they going to forgive student loans or a significant portion of them? Well, what about the people who've already paid them off? What about the people who have sacrificed to make payments for their children? That saved, that didn't go on vacation? I mean, people do this stuff, you know. Buy a smaller house. Buy a smaller car. They could have afforded a bigger house. They could have afforded the bigger car, but they said, no, we're going to put some money away. We're going to save it for school. What about all those sacrifices people made? It's an insult. It's a smack across the face. You're an adult. You make a decision. You want to go to university? Fantastic. You can't afford it? Well, maybe you shouldn't be there if you didn't think that you could afford it. I mean, in all honesty, didn't you take math? What's your major? Is there demand for that skill set? What does that job pay? This stuff is readily available to find. Government websites. I mean, what the hell are all these high school counselors and college guidance counselors doing? Oh, it's all about money. How much more money can we bring in? It's a business. It's not education anymore. It's a business. And that's what it's been. And this pendulum is going to come back and kick them in the ass very, very hard and very, very soon. Universities are, in my opinion, are going to go out of business. Especially as a lot of younger people in the millennial generation, start to get married, start to have kids. They're going to tell their kids, you don't have to go to college. I guarantee this is going to happen. So you're going to see a wave. Of course, there's a time lag in this, but there's going to come a time here. It's not going to be stressed upon young adults anymore that you must go to college. It's just not, because people know. They have the experience. They're going to say, look, you're going to go into all of this debt. Was the education really worth it? You have all this debt when you come out again. You're going to pay it. What wages are you going to make? What opportunities are there? There's a lot of things to juggle. And of course, once everybody has something, a bachelor's degree, it dilutes its value. Again, Econ 101. That's why you have so many people going back to school to get a master's or even a PhD. And now with the $15 minimum wage being proposed, that's just going to make the problems even worse because it's going to delay work experience. People are going to be replaced by robots and touch screens. They are. It's already happening. This is just going to exacerbate the process. It's going to hasten that process. It's, again, like I stated yesterday, you almost have to try to be this stupid. So it makes you think, are they doing it on purpose? Probably, because there's nothing but history out there that says these things do not work, but they keep doing it anyway. Because it's politically convenient for them to do so. And then we have, I haven't really mentioned this, and I'm not going to go into great detail with it now, but there are some more shenanigans over in Italy. That government may very well collapse in the not-too-distant future. It never went away. It just wasn't front page news anymore. It's on the second page, the 20th page, that's all. But it's here. It's going to come front and center. And this is not the only country whose government is collapsing. Our government is collapsing. Our nation's capital is basically on lockdown. Basically martial law down there. We're supposed to be the example for free and fair elections, for peaceful transfers of power. And the outgoing president isn't even going to be there, which I think is a mistake. Some people think that's the smart move. I think it's a mistake. That's one of the things that's supposed to set us apart, and it's supposed to inspire other countries that are still under dictatorships or communist or socialist rule. That's what we are supposed to do as Americans. We're supposed to lead by example. Now we're a laughingstock. They got barbed wire fences and National Guards, to thousands of them, during the inauguration ceremony. I'm speechless. I was speechless the other day, too. Shame to be a citizen of this country. I am. This is pathetic. I didn't vote for this stuff. I don't want it, and I don't want to pay for it. And I have no recourse, and I have no representation. And neither do you. You have no representation. They're going to take as much money as they possibly can from you. And don't forget that either. Your taxes are going up across the board. State, federal, local, they're all going to go up. Tools, property, to everything is going to go up. These states are in deficit. They don't have the money. A lot of states have people leaving, such as California and New York and others. How are they going to make it up? Again, this is basic math, but people just, it ain't happening. Well, where's Tesla today? Is Tesla up? That's all I care about. If Tesla's up, I don't care about reality. I don't care about tens of millions of Americans in food bank lines. I don't care that we're going to go from $28,000 a family in savings to $1,500 in 4 years. I don't care. Where's Tesla? Where is it? That's all I care about, because that's how I'm making my money, just trading these bubble stocks. Where's Bitcoin? All I care about. And as long as we have a society and a nation that is more concerned about the stock market and money, well, this is what's going to happen. We're going to treat each other like commodities as opposed to human beings. And that is not a way to run any type of country. You know, our founding fathers told us that freedom requires a righteous and moral people to manage and keep a country that is based off of freedom, off of individual liberty, and off of the rule of law. So once we begin to lose our humanity, which we are well in the process of that, well, we begin to lose our country too, and that is more and more evident on a daily basis. So not a very cheerful weekly wrap-up. My apologies for that, but that's just what's going on. Our brightest days can very much be ahead of us. I believe that 100%. But we have to adopt policies that are going to get us there. And doing the same stuff and expecting a different result, it's a march to suicide. So hopefully some people start to wake up to the facts. They start to speak out. They start standing up to these bills. They start putting members of Congress on notice for the right reasons, for justifiable reasons, and hold them to account. This is our country. This is our government. So with that, enjoy your weekend. Next week, I'm sure will be very eventful, to say the least, and we'll do our best to cover it and provide some accurate and hopefully insightful insights. So enjoy your weekend. Stay safe out there. Stay diversified. Stay vigilant, and stay with the Kapital News. I am Alex Karitis. Godspeed.